Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of The Guido Goes Off. As always, I thank you folks for watching. Hope you're enjoying your weekend, and much like me, looking forward to a Michael Cole-free Raw. Um, but in all seriousness, of course, we all know he won't be there due to his son getting married. Wishing him all the best, happy for his family. There's some other wrestling news to get to, so why don't we get to it? Ladies and gentlemen, more news involving the Young Bucks and WWE. It was reported earlier this week that WWE has sent another cease and desist letter to Matt and Nick Jackson. This time it is telling them to stop using the phrase "too sweet" and the Wolfpack hand gesture. As we know, those were made famous in American wrestling by the NWO, which after the sale of WCW is the property of WWE. A couple weeks ago, the Young Bucks did received a cease and desist letter telling them to stop using the crotch chop and the phrase "suck it." Now, many people would just go on with their lives or what have you, but of course the Young Bucks, being the enterprising men that they are, have answered by putting out a t-shirt. The t-shirt has the phrase "cease and desist", them giving the "too sweet" hand gestures with censored bars across it, and censoring the word "sweet" on it. Now, of course, for those of you who want this shirt, it's available on their shop on ProWrestlingTees.com. A good place to go, I'm just saying. But it's still hard to say as to why WWE is targeting the Young Bucks in this manner. It was about a week after, week or so after the first cease and desist letter. And now, people are wondering if this is an answer to the Bullet Club invasion on this past Raw. WWE hasn't really said anything that they cared, really. But the ROH contracted members, the Young Bucks, in addition to Marty Scurll, Hangman Page, and Cody, which is all I can say legally, it said it was launched mostly as a protest to allow Cody to use the Rhodes name on the independent scene and in ROH, as it is part of his family's legacy. But as we all know, especially during the promo with Kevin Owens, Vince has been over a lot of lawsuits and does not like to lose. But again, this is also a situation of, whatever your feelings on the Young Bucks are, if if you feel that they're unoriginal spot monkeys. It is interesting that once again they're using this and actually turning it into a money-making opportunity. There's very little WWE can do if everything's censored on it, and the phrase "cease and desist." So it's basically they're like, hey, let's do something with it. Let's roll with it. Because as we know, the Young Bucks are basically merchandise-generating machines, and this is their way of trying to say, hey, we can do this without using those things, and even be like, haha, you can't stop us. So again, more on this as it develops, and it could get to be a very, very interesting situation. It may not end well, but it could be very, very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, another bit of interesting news is in the women's wrestling area. Apparently, WWE has now shown interest in bringing back another former Divas champion. In this case, Celeste Bonin, who was known to WWE fans as Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn was a former WWE Divas champion. her title reign was ended by AJ, which started AJ's record-setting run as longest reigning Divas champion prior to somebody took up dancing. Anyway, Kaitlyn posted pictures of herself after training at a wrestling facility, I believe in Los Angeles. And it was the first time Kaitlyn had been in a wrestling ring in 4 years. She has done some modeling and other things. I really don't know some other things. There were some other things, but we don't try to talk about some of the other things. Now, as we know, Kaitlyn left WWE about 4 years ago, and that she's about 4 years ago, and this, as she said, was the first time she'd been in a wrestling ring in 4 years, and loved it. She said she forgot how fun and exhausting it could be, and if WWE is showing interest, that of course is something very interesting. I don't know if you guys watch Wrestle Talk, but they had talked about that there are louder rumblings of a Women's Royal Rumble coming up in January of next year. And as I say right now, WWE on its between its main rosters such as Raw, SmackDown, and NXT only has about 19 women, and this also includes the soon-to-be returning Paige and Summer Rae, who has been MIA for quite some time. Oh, excuse me. So they would have to have more women. We would assume some from the Mae Young Classic and maybe some returns to fill out a 30-woman Royal Rumble. Which, if this happens, I'm sure, like most of y'all out there, this is going to make your Royal Rumble pools interesting. But I'm all for it, and if they do sign Kaitlyn back, that'd be great. I mean, you've had a former women's champion, and she was actually pretty good in the ring before she left. And as always, we kind of like seeing new things, and a little nostalgia never hurt, just a little. And and as we know, there's been a lot of firsts in women's wrestling in the past few years. First women's Hell in a Cell match, the first women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it'd only be fitting that a women's Royal Rumble would be the natural progression. And Kaitlyn being in a wrestling ring, it might be lending itself to that. It could be a one-time thing. It could be more, because it does seem like WWE is trying to expand their women's rosters on both Raw and at least on both Raw and SmackDown. There was no, my friend Mike pointed out, there was no mass firing after WrestleMania, which usually seems to be the case for WWE. And now you've got Asuka debuting on Raw, Paige slated to return. It's still next month onto SmackDown, and of course a lot of hirings, and with the Mae Young Classic having some potentially more hirings, this could be good for women's wrestling and great for Kaitlyn that she's actually trying a return, because from what I had heard, it left a very bad taste in her mouth, but she has visited a few times with WWE. I know she showed up on WWE's YouTube with the New Day, and she is in the good graces of WWE, and a return, if a return is possible, that's just great. Of course, more as it develops. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do go to some happy news could possibly turn out into sad news. Bully Ray recently talked in a recent interview that he's now facing the possibility of being forced into retirement. He talked at length about getting a severe concussion after a table shot, after the table shot during the match at Death Before Dishonor, where he and the Briscoes defended ROH's six-man tag team titles against the Young Bucks and Hangman Page. He said that he had a severe concussion. He spoke to the doctors, and the doctors said there's possibilities of him having health problems from this going forward. He said, what about, asked his doctor, what about wrestling? I believe his doctor said, I would begin to look at a life without it. He hasn't officially announced it. I'm assuming he's going to get a second opinion. Now, of course, Bully Ray, or Bubba Ray Dudley, very storied career. Former TNA champion, WWE Hardcore champion, and of course, the multiple title reigns. I think it's like 24 title reigns between WWE, WCW, ECW, and TNA. Of course, with Devon. Now, it's not that he's not going to have a. It's not that he's going to have to step away from wrestling entirely. Of course, everyone knows that he and Devon run. I think there's actually two branches of the Team 3D Academy. So he can always look to training the next stage of wrestler. But it's quite possibly his career could be done. He's made no announcement for sure. I'm assuming he's talking with his doctor, talking with other doctors, getting a second opinion. Which, by the way, if you have any medical situation, always get a second opinion. And it could be, it's not the way you want to go out as a wrestler. And as always, of course, when I find out, you find out. And we'll see. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Guido Goes Off. Again, thank you folks for watching. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on the topics I covered. Feel free to drop a line in the comments section below. And as always, feel free to talk to me via my social media. And of course, as I always ask, and a lot of you do oblige me, thank you. Like this video, share it with everyone you know, maybe make a new friend sharing this video. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please, there's always a chance to subscribe. And of course, hit the bell for notifications of new episodes. And once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy your weekend. And until next time, I am the Guido, and I think we're done here.